Welcome to episode 5 of What Matters, Creating Confident Readers. We're going to talk today about what matters in reading aloud to children. In our past episodes, we've talked about what matters in just showing up, in making sure our children are seen, and in helping them to be creative and playful in their practicing of writing and putting down their thinking on paper. Why should we read to our children? Research has shown us a student who reads 20 minutes a day has a decided advantage. In fact, by the time that student is in grade 6, 20 minutes a day with weekends off will give you the equivalent of 60 full days of reading during the school year. So that's not 60 extra days of school. That's 60 days where a child is reading for 6 hours a day in a school year. Can you imagine what an advantage that will give children? 20 minutes doesn't seem like a lot. Reading is a multifaceted skill, and it's acquired over years of instruction and practice. If you think about how you read, you just read automatically because you have read long enough and practiced enough that words just come to you. In fact, you can't even help yourself. If you see some language, like the language on this slide, chances are you've already read it before I point it out. So what is the process that children go through when they're learning to read? Your emergent reader will begin by holding the book and maybe turning the pages, maybe not in the right order. They might show you the beginning and the end of the story, so helping them to recognize here's where the story starts, here's where the story ends, and here's the stuff in the middle is really important. Then a child might pretend to read. I think it's so fun watching my little toddlers take out their books and jibber-jabbering in their baby talk and just pretending to turn the pages and imitating their mums while they read. After that, they might learn to know some letter names. They might start to recognize, oh, here's an A or here's an M, especially as our teachers and you start noticing that print and teaching them those letters. Then they might get to the point where they know most letter names and some sounds while they're reading. They will eventually get so they know most letter names and sounds, and then some words. Eventually they're going to get so they use the illustrations to tell stories. And illustrations are really, really important in terms of providing the context for comprehension. So illustrations and picture books are really, really important to that developing reading. A lot of parents will say to me, he didn't read it, he's just memorizing. But memorizing is reading. Memorizing is the most important thing that children can do. They're realizing that there's a beginning, a middle, an end of the story, and they're memorizing the text on the page. Eventually, they will start to notice that the text on the page matches the words that they've memorized. So please know that if your child is memorizing a story that you've given them, they are reading it. And eventually they get so they're solving words and using all of the comprehension skills that you have modeled while you're reading aloud to them. So I know that a lot of this work of teaching children how to read is teacher work. I'm not asking you to do that. What I'd like you to do is read to your child. One of the most important things that you can do while you're reading to your child is to show them what you're thinking. The difference between children who struggle and don't understand what they're reading and children who do is that children who are good readers have strategies that they know how to use when the text is hard. Children who struggle have very limited strategies. In fact, usually they're just reading the words on the page, and they're forgetting that thinking is part of reading. So for you, modeling what a good reader does, telling them what you're thinking while you're reading is one of the most important things that you can do while reading to your child at home. Whether you're teaching kids how to ride a bike, bake a cake, or read a book, Think Alouds are a magnificent tool for sharing your expertise. Think Alouds make invisible mental processes visible to children. While reading, teachers, and I'm going to say parents, model their thinking by voicing all the things they are noticing, doing, seeing, feeling, and asking as they process the text. Students can then borrow the various strategies parents use and apply them in their own reading. You are the expert reader in the room, And your thinking is so important to show children what readers do while reading. This slide illustrates the importance of modeling vocabulary. Notice the correlation between the number of minutes students spend reading per day and the number of words they read per year. 20 minutes a day is almost 2 million words that a child is exposed to. And then there's a further correlation to their success beyond school and in life in the percentile ranking. I'm just going to show you what I would do in modeling my thinking and building vocabulary. This is one of my very favorite books, How to Babysit a Grandma, and I read it with my grandchildren. We love it because it changes our roles quite a bit. One of these people is a grandma, and one of these people is a granddaughter. Here's a little hint about what's on the inside of the story. Sometimes I take a picture walk with my grandkids and say, I wonder if this story is going to be about grandma having to catch the puppy having to get all dressed up, the puppy chewing up shoes, or just getting hugs from your grandma. When you babysit a grandma, if you're lucky, it's a sleepover at her house. Right now, I'm thinking that this little girl is really excited to go to grandma's house. And I'm thinking that maybe her parents aren't. I have a theory that grandma is really excited to have her come as well, and that grandma's been waiting for a while. I remember when I was a little girl and being very excited to go to my grandma's house. What should you do when you get to her door? Put on a disguise and say, "Guess who?" Knock with a secret knock only she knows. Tap, tap, tippity tap. If you like cats, meow. If you like dogs, bark. If you like goldfish, So these are some things that you could do. I wonder if grandma would laugh if you showed up at her door and meowed like a cat instead of saying, "Hi, grandma." When she opens the door, shout, "Grandma, your babysitter is here." So right now I'm thinking that the dog in the pictures at the start of the book might be in for a surprise because I can see in the window his ears are up and he has a funny little mark above his head that makes me think he's saying, "Huh?" That's what I'm thinking. Hug your mom and dad goodbye and say, "Don't be sad, I'll be home soon." Now tell your grandma all the fun things you have planned. Right now, I'm noticing that mom has her eyes on the little girl, and I bet she's thinking, "I'm going to miss you." And I'm thinking dad is excited about having some time to go away because he's patting the dog, and I'm wondering if he's thinking, "Good luck, puppy, your life is about to be different." So now tell grandma all the fun things you have planned. How to keep a grandma busy. Go to the park. Bake snickerdoodles. I'm thinking I've made snickerdoodles before and they're delicious. This is making me hungry, and maybe I'm thinking I might bake snickerdoodles the next time my grandchildren come, or maybe this afternoon. Have a costume parade. Go to the park to feed the ducks. Do yoga. Look at family pictures. Go to the park to swing. Play hide and seek. Make goofy hats. Go to the park to slide. Have dancing puppet show. Read stacks of books. Go to the park to take photos. Do puzzles. Play cards. Right now, I'm noticing how many times this little girl thinks, "Go to the park." She says it almost every other idea is something different she can do at the park. So I'm wondering if maybe go to the park is something she really wants to do and is hoping to do. And I'm thinking this puppy is actually kind of glad to see the granddaughter come. As the babysitter, you need to let her choose. Of course, she'll want to. I'm wondering if she's kind of secretly hoping that grandma will choose what she wants. Maybe go to the park. Let's see what happens. Go to the park. She did. I'm thinking grandmas quite often choose what grandchildren love to do too. What to do at the park? Slide down the bumpy slide and twirly slide. If she's feeling brave, try the tallest slide. So now I'm thinking there's some really good vocabulary words, bumpy and twirly, of ways to describe things, and then comparisons like tallest. Push your grandma on the swing, but not too high. Remind her to pump her legs. So, one thing I do when I'm reading to children and I come across a word that they may not be familiar with, like pump her legs, I'll use it quite often. So, I might say, I love going to the park by myself, but when I go to the park and don't have someone to push my swing, I remember to pump my legs. I push them out and I tuck them under and I keep pumping and can go higher and higher. Sometimes when we go to the park, I don't have to push as much if the person I'm with already knows how to pump their legs. Pumping your legs is really important. This is how I would read the story with children, making sure that I'm focusing on my thinking, letting them know what I think as I read, letting them know what I notice in the pictures and what my feelings are as I'm reading it, and also trying to focus on the vocabulary component of the book, expanding on words that they may not be familiar with, and helping to enrich their vocabulary through reading. Of course, finding an engaging text is always half the battle. So that's how I would read the book, How to Babysit a Grandma. Remembering that modeling reading is really important, but it's not just modeling the words, it's modeling the vocabulary, making it rich, using it, expanding on it, and it's also modeling your thinking. So now, parents, it's your turn. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time.